My name is Jennifer Curtanis, Director of Health for the Farmington Valley Health District, and your host for Health Matters, a public health education show brought to you by the Health Department. Today we're going to talk about pools and pool inspections. Many people may not be aware that the Health District enforces local pool regulations, permits all public swimming pools, both indoors and outdoors, and conducts routine inspections. Swimming pools must be maintained properly to protect the health of those who use the pools and to ensure that they are safe for use. Today, we are fortunate to have with us Kevin Closter, who's an environmental health inspector with the Health Department. Welcome, Kevin, to tell us all there is to know about swimming pools. So welcome.
Thank you very much, Jennifer, for having me today.
You're absolutely my pleasure. So as I mentioned, most people probably aren't aware of the role that the Health Department plays in inspecting and permitting public pools. Can you tell us a little bit about the types of pools that we actually get involved with throughout the district?
Sure thing. So as an environmental health inspector, we do public pools. We stick to public pools such as ones in hotels, condos, apartments, and they can also span indoor and outdoor pools as well.
And so you mentioned public, so it's got to be a pool that's accessible to the public, either they're a member or more than the single owner is using the pool. Do we also do, I think sometimes hotels in particular have hot tubs or whirlpools. Do we inspect those as well?
Yes, so maybe apartments and condos may not have whirlpools available, but a lot of times when you go into a pool, you'll see a main pool and a whirlpool as well, and yes, we will inspect those as well.
Okay, and what about private pools? So I know my husband and I have a pool in our backyard. Many people in the Northeast in our area have private pools. Do we get involved in inspecting those at all?
So we normally don't do private pools. We stick to public. The only reason we would inspect a private residence pool is if maybe we received a complaint from maybe like a neighbor, someone in the neighborhood noticed some sort of adverse public health happening in a pool from their neighbors. So we may get a call on those and we may go off and inspect those.
Sure, so it would be mostly just a follow-up to a complaint if a private pool wasn't being maintained properly. Because we certainly know in this area, any type of water can be a breeding habitat for mosquitoes.
That is correct.
So we want to make sure that that is not the case with our private pools. Why is it important for the health district to get involved in inspecting pools?
So there are many different kinds of reasons. The main ones are, especially from the public health standpoint, is health and safety. So pools that are not well maintained can be a breeding ground for mosquitoes, just like you said, and also waterborne illnesses. And safety reasons as well, like maintenance and the equipment plays a huge part and are necessary to ensure safety of those using the pool.
Right, so we're going to break that down a little bit and provide our audience with a little bit more detail on the types of things that we actually look for during a pool inspection, be that an indoor pool, an outdoor pool, or some of the unique things that we look for in like the spas or whirlpools that you mentioned. But let's just start with some of the safety related things. When we go out, you go out to do an inspection, what types of safety things are you specifically looking for?
So there are many different kinds of things we look for during a routine inspection of a public pool. Those including like bathrooms, for example, cleanliness, hot and cold water at all the faucets, no like stagnant water on the ground for like tripping, slipping, things of that nature. So that's like physical things. Signage as well is a very important part. We'll get into signage a little bit later. And also cleanliness of the pool. That's a big one, and that's any member of the public can see, is a pool clean? Is it, the right color for a pool? Is it green? Is it growing algae? So cleanliness, and also things probably behind the scenes that the public may not notice are like the pump chamber, making sure that those pumps are working, the inlet, the outlet, and any filters associated, making sure it's getting the right amount of chemicals to and from the pool to get it properly circulated.
So at public pools, you often see safety type of equipment. Is that something that we actually regulate as well?
Yes, so some kinds of safety equipment we specifically look for. There's an item called a life pole, which is essentially a long pole, a shepherd's crook, with a little loop attached to it. There's also a life ring with usually a 50-foot long, 1/4 inch thick rope attached to it. But those are just a small number of safety pieces of equipment, and there should be enough around the pool area, so it's not enough to cover one side of the pool. We may require it to be, depending on how big the pool is, on 2 sides of the pool or all areas of the pool.
And then one other thing that we do require is that there be a functioning emergency phone that is well represented with signage, correct?
That is correct. So that's a big one, because how many people do you know actually go swimming with a cell phone in their pocket? Probably none.
Right.
So that's why it's very important, if you go into a pool area, especially as a member of the public, they should be looking for that big red sign. It will usually say like phone in it, 911, but there should be a designation to where the phone is located, because a lot of people don't have their phones in the pool area.
Right.
So that's another big one that we do look for.
Is it a requirement, we talk about safety things around a pool, is it a requirement that all public pools have a lifeguard on duty?
So it is not a requirement to have a lifeguard on duty. Most places will actually have a lifeguard, but if they do not have a lifeguard, we just require that they have a sign very conspicuously posted somewhere in the pool area, even before entering the pool area, that there is no lifeguard on duty. So it is very important for the public to be aware, to remain vigilant just in case there are no lifeguards. They should take stock, where's all the safety equipment, where's the phone, just in case they need it.
Yeah, great points. And also maybe a buddy, like making sure, be aware of your surroundings, that, if there's no lifeguard on duty, are there other people in the pool that, you watch out for each other. So an inspector goes in, you look for all of these types of safety related items, the working phone, the equipment to rescue someone, appropriate signage, slip hazards, those types of things. But we're also really interested in, as you mentioned, things, waterborne illness. When we swim, when we play in water, there's no doubt we all ingest a little bit of that water when we're swimming or playing, and we really need to make sure that the quality of the water is such that it's not carrying a bacteria or a waterborne illness that's likely to cause problems for people that are in the pool. So you brought a little demonstration kit. So tell us a little bit about the testing that we do at pools.
Sure thing. So there are essentially, besides safety and physical and everything else, we are looking specifically chemical-wise. So a little chemistry lesson, we do free available chlorine, which are these couple tubes here, and then pH, which is this tube here. So once again, little chemistry lesson. So I said free available chlorine. So what that means is the amount of chlorine available in a pool to eat up any nasty substances, any pathogens, any bacteria that may be in the pool or have entered the pool due to anything. So we make sure to test using a kit. It may not be as fancy as this kit I brought here today, but some sort of kit you will see us bring to the pool and test for those items. So the second item being the pH, so we make sure that a level of pH between 7.2 and 7.8, and what that does is it acts as like a stabilizer so that the chlorine doesn't go crazy. So the operator is not necessarily checking the chlorine levels all day. So it acts really as a stabilizer. So as long as it's in that range, it's a good number. And for chlorine, we're looking for the state minimum of 0.8 or higher.
Okay. So I know the regulations for the Farmington Valley Health District require that for outdoor swimming pools, we do an opening inspection before an outdoor pool can even get its permit to operate for the season. But we also have indoor pools. What is the frequency with which we actually can get out there and do inspections, and particularly do the type of testing that you're talking about? Because it seems to me that there are a lot of things, just having my own pool, there are a lot of things that can impact the chlorine levels, the pH levels, et cetera. So how often are we testing these pools?
So indoor pools, which are usually open year-round, we try to go once every couple of months just to make sure they're on track. And then the outdoor seasonal pools, we call them seasonal because majority of outdoor pools are open from Memorial Day in May to Labor Day in September, and that's when our busy pool season is.
Right.
We usually try to go at least once a month, but if time allows, at least twice a month.
Okay. And so from a public perspective, I would say if I were a member of a public pool, well, how do I know if the health department can only be there a few times, maybe 2 times in a month? How do we know that, on those off days that the pool is being tested? So what do we require?
So just like you said, we can't be there all the time. So what we require is someone, we call them a CPO, a certified pool operator. It's someone who has demonstrated their knowledge of pool safety to us, usually by a third-party certification or an exam that we administer, but we make sure that there is someone at all times when that pool is in operation for the public to be able to do the testing and maintenance of the pool during the season.
And then how often do we require that they do the actual chemical testing?
So we require the pool operators to do the testing 3 times during a day. So the first time is in the morning, probably before the pool opens for the day, just so they can adjust chemicals as needed. And then another time in the middle of the day, because that's probably when the most usage is, and all depending on the weather as well. Is it too sunny? Is it rainy? Because all those have an effect in altering the chemistry of a pool. So we want to make sure that they do it in the middle of the day and probably when it gets the most usage, and then also at the end of the day as well, to just make sure they finalize any last minute pool goers, make sure they're safe as well.
Right.
So we do require 3 times a day.
And do the certified pool operators keep a log of that? I mean, how are there ways that we can assure that that is being done?
Yes, so every time we go to do an inspection, they keep what we call a pool log. And so they usually have that handy for us per request, and they log every single day all the records that they have, and they may even test for more than pH and chlorine. But they do have records of all of that, and it is available per our request.
So we unfortunately have the occasion where we have to actually close a pool because we feel, as the health department charged with really ensuring that they are healthy and safe for the general public to use, have identified some things that might present a risk. What are some of the situations that might cause us to close a pool?
Okay, so if like a member of the public sees like a sign in front of their pool saying that it's closed for the day, a number of different things could have happened. So one of the main things is the pool chemistry. So like I was talking about the chlorine, if there's no available chlorine in a pool, that is a huge indicator that any bacteria or waterborne illness will thrive in that environment, and that's exactly what we're trying to prevent. So the pool chemistry is so important for us to make sure that it is maintained by the pool operator. And another thing is like the gates, even the gates going in and out, any gate around the pool, they need to be self-closing. So if there are any pool gates that, you open the gate, it stays open. Think about little kids. There are like way too many drownings that happened throughout the state. So that's why that's also like an automatic closure of a pool until they can get like a self-closing hinge on that gate. Another thing would be the clarity of the water. You go in there, that pool water's cloudy. There are some pools that go as deep as like 9, 10, even 12 feet I've seen. So if pool water is cloudy, you can't see to the bottom. So if there's any swimmers in there, any members of the public, any kids, they may not be seen in those waters, and that may be due to like a chemistry issue, like a pool chemistry issue. So if you can't see to the bottom of the pool, that's a big indicator that that pool should not be swam in. And another one would be like the emergency phone not working. We want to make sure that, like in the name, it's an emergency phone. All those phones should be tested and just in case of an emergency, be ready for usage.
Sure. So if we have to close the pool for a safety issue, the water not being clear, the chemistry not being right, that's something we do immediately. We ask people to leave the pool area and we post it clearly until we can make sure that whatever corrective action happens.
And the operators are very willing to work with us, meaning that they will not open a pool unless it's ready to come back and be opened again. We will do follow-ups, so it's not like we close them indefinitely. We do work with them to make sure that everything is in order and that it is as healthy and safe for the public as possible.
Yeah, it's nice to know that the regulated community of the pool operators, they have the same goals and interests as we. Clearly, they want to have a pool open and available to whether it be their members or guests, but at the same time, they certainly don't want a circumstance that could create, worst case scenario, a drowning, but even someone to get sick from swimming in their water. So it's good to know that they're cooperative and work with us. And a lot of these things can be corrected relatively easy with a little bit of time and adjustment to the chemicals, that sort of thing. Are there conditions that someone using a pool should report immediately either to the certified pool operator or to the health department for follow-up? Again, recognizing we cannot be there, every single day. We ask the public to also, support us and the pool operators in the efforts to make sure things are safe and healthy.
Yeah, so some very easy things any member of the public can really see when even entering a pool area would be the gate. Obviously, you have to enter and exit through a gate, see if that's self-closing, and then specifically looking at the pool itself. Just like I was talking about before, is that water cloudy? Can you see to the bottom of that pool?
And I wanted to just follow up on the cloudy aspect. So I'm sure there are days, beautiful hot summer days, where the inspectors actually would love to go swimming in the pools. We don't go into the water to inspect, but the clarity of the water is important to us because we have to observe what's called a main drain of a large swimming pool. Can you tell us why that is such an important safety aspect of the inspection that we do, observing that main drain?
Of course, yeah. So there was an unfortunate act, and now there is something called the Virginia...
An accident. Unfortunate accident.
That is correct. So there is an act called the Virginia Graham-Baker Act. So there was an unfortunate accident that caused a drowning. And so now these main drains have to have like the protective covering because of the amount of water that cycles through and the amount of suction force. So that's why it's extremely important that they are clearly visible and they have the proper coverings on them and be able to see them. And we also, during our inspection, we make sure to go over with the certified pool operator those coverings. So due to UV sun degradation, they're usually only good for 10 years. So we just check base with them, how old are they, and get them replaced if needed.
So you talked earlier about signage and the fact that we'd circle back. What types of signage should people using pools expect to see and look for at public pools?
Okay, yep. So the biggest one, like I touched on previously, is lifeguards. Does a pool have a lifeguard on duty or not? That should be a big one that should be conspicuously posted in the pool area. Another sign they should be looking for is like no diving. Some pools are not like for recreation that have the diving boards, may not have the depth, so that's a safety issue if they're diving in the shallow waters. Other signs that we're looking for are depth markers. So we want to make sure they're on the outside of the pool and the inside of the pool. So no matter where you are in the pool area, if you're inside the pool, you want to make sure you know exactly how deep it's going to be, because many pools do have like a slow grade where they get deeper and deeper. So the swimmer and member of the public needs to know exactly how deep that water is going to be.
Yeah, well, and especially for young people that are just learning to swim or maybe don't have the confidence to get in water over their head, it's important for them to know where their cutoff point is. In addition to being aware of pool conditions, safety, knowing what the signs mean, where the safety equipment is, are there things that the general public can and should or shouldn't do around public bathing just to help contribute to the safety of the pool?
Of course. So there are a couple things that we specifically look for, and especially as part of the signage as well. We want to make sure that members of the public are showering before entering the pool, you know, getting any excess debris, dirt, what have you, anything from the outside of their body so it doesn't enter the pool. So that's a big one. We want to make sure there's no horseplay or rowdy behavior in the pool area. We want to make sure that there's, if you're using the pool for the day and you may not be feeling 100%, you know, like a GI illness, diarrhea, vomiting, may want to consider not using the pool that day. Or
just not using the pool. Yeah.
Exactly. No swimming for that day, because water is a very good medium for spreading that bacteria.
Yeah, and I think this is a really important message for parents to, you know, younger kids. You know, if they have been ill with vomiting or diarrhea, they really should wait for quite a couple days after the symptoms have subsided before they return back to a public swimming pool, because they can spread whatever it was that made them sick, and we don't want that to happen. So we talked about the fact that we don't regulate or routinely inspect private pools unless there is a complaint. But based on your experience with, you know, inspecting and testing public pools, what would you suggest to perhaps a new private pool owner, things that are important for them to keep their pools healthy and safe?
That's a great question, because there's probably a lot of private pool owners out there. So a couple things would be, and you can get at any home improvement store, and it doesn't need to be as fancy as this. They have available tiny, tiny little test kits where you can test for the two items I mentioned, the chlorine and the pH. So, and that's a quick, as you take the kit, you fill it with the pool water, and then you do the couple of drops, and then it's like a color scale. You match the color to make sure that there's enough, and making sure that you have plenty of chemicals on site, and checking the pump to make sure that is constantly working as well.
Great. So some wonderful, helpful hints both for the private pool owner as well as helping inform the general public about our work to keep public pools safe. So again, thank you. If you enjoy a public pool, please know that we're working as the health department to keep them healthy and safe. And until next time, remember, your health is your greatest wealth.